Hey guys, Ryan Gill here with Hunt Primitive, and probably about a year ago I did a video comparing Sinew, Rawhide, and modern Dacron bowstrings, and I originally hypothesized that the primitive strings would be slower than the modern strings because that's what it seems like when I shoot. Well, when I ran that test, I ran it on a single bow on a set of 3 strings, and the numbers came across almost exact for all the strings, gave me straight numbers right across the board. So I was pretty surprised with that, and I thought, well shoot, yeah, well, maybe I was just making bad strings, before, but now that I've got pretty good strings, they're shooting every bit as good as Dacron. Well, it's been long enough now that I have done several tests on several bows using thinner Rawhide, thicker Rawhide, thinner Sinew, thicker Sinew, and then the Dacron strings on many different bows, which I'm not going to go through every single one of those bows because the results pretty much mirror the tests that I'm going to do with this bow right here. And this is one of my High Plains models. It's a short one. It's actually my personal hunting bow. And keep in mind that I also shoot a very short draw, about 22 inches. So we're not getting a huge power stroke out of this. So keep in mind that people that shoot the longer draw lengths, 26, 28, 30 inches, have a longer power stroke. They're going to get more feet per second per draw, and they're also probably going to see a larger range of differences per the string materials, simply because there's more power stroke to highlight the differences between the string materials. I could be wrong about that, but I have a feeling that's how it's going to work. Maybe you have to do those tests for yourself. So anyway, it's a good shooting bow, and this is a good representative piece to the numbers that we're really looking at. So we're going to go ahead and shoot this, and we'll see how this does. And I'm also going to go back and delete the old video because I think that was a lot of misinformation. That test was the anomaly, and that was only one test that we ran, and it gave us skewed numbers per se. Like on that bow, they all shot about exactly the same, but I think on your average you're going to see a difference between your primitive strings and your modern strings. And the reason for that being is you have to assume that your primitive strings, not made with modern polyester, even when made with animal sinew or rawhide, they have a certain amount of stretch to them. That's just the nature of a primitive bowstring, is it is going to have a little bit of a stretch, and I do prefer the animal part strings. I prefer sinew and rawhide because they are very abrasion resistant, where a lot of your plant fiber strings are not as abrasion resistant as a sinew or a rawhide string, and those are just my personal preference on there. I know somebody's gonna get on and say, I have a string made out of this and I love it, and that's fine. Shoot whatever you want to shoot, but those are some of the reasonings that I'm shooting the strings that I shoot. So anyway, let's get on to the tests, and hey, thanks for following along. All right, our first 3 shots will be done with the Dacron string. .63, 161, 162. And then keeping in mind also that I naturally shoot a short draw, so about 22 inches. So the power stroke of my bow is actually much shorter than the average person, say, shoots maybe anywhere from 26, 28, even out to 30 inches. So when you have that longer draw, you're going to get that longer power stroke. And some of these, not only will your feet per second go up per weight, but also you may notice larger differences between Dacron sinew and rawhide. The next test, we'll be doing the 3-ply rawhide string, and same arrow, same bow, and and there is a video on me making this rawhide string if you're interested, and I'll drop it in the link down in the description. 154, 53, 154. These were consistent. So now we'll switch up to the sinew string, and we'll test that one out. Alright, and this test is done with the sinew bowstring, and I'll explain the sinew string a little bit after I shoot as well. 154. Exactly the same as the rawhide string. 51. I think I was just a skosh short on the draw, but not much. Probably a 1/4 inch is all it takes to make that difference. 156. And just to bring that average together, we'll shoot it one more time, since we had one that was a little high and one that was a little low. Not that it really matters. 152, a good average. Alright, so now what we need to remember about the Sinew string, or another interesting fact, is that this is a very thin Sinew string. So it's actually thinner than the Dacron string. I made one about as thin as I thought I could possibly go with it, because I wanted to see how far I could really push the performance of a Sinew string once I saw that I wasn't getting the feet per second that I was looking for. So then I kind of had a hunch and said, well, maybe I should build a thicker Sinew string, just out of the plausibility that maybe the thicker one will actually have a little less stretch to it and might speed the bow up, and it didn't. The thicker one, as kind of expected, did slow the bow down even more. So sticking with this thin one, which seems to be very stable, I've shot it quite a bit and hunted with it for extended periods of time, seems perfectly fine. We're getting the same performance out of this and the thin Rawhide string, but the Dacron being, what, 8, 9, 10 feet per second on average faster than our primitive string.